the most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hello everyone, welcome live to 3YTV, tonight's broadcast of the American Sim Racing Series Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson Thursday Night Throwback Cup Series here from the old Phoenix International Raceway. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here tonight is Greg Rentz. And Greg, great to have these 1987 cars out here tonight. It is my birthday, that's the reason for the birthday cake there at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, but I'm here and I'm excited for some 87s action here at Old Phoenix.
Well, first off, happy birthday, Peter, and it's the best day of the year for you here on 3YTV, and no better way for you to spend it than with the ASRS Throwback Thursday Series, presented, of course, by our friends at Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson, as we get set to duel for 100 laps here in the Arizona desert. All the usual suspects of the T.N.T series are here tonight, ready to go at it for 100 laps in the Arizona sun here today, Peter.
Yeah, and of course, this is also the penultimate round of the 2020 Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson Thursday Night Throwback Cup Series. This series is actually going to be expanded next year in the American Sim Racing Series, Greg, and we'll have to highlight that at some point here tonight, but we have about 2 minutes left here in the practice session, and let's go over the current point standings coming in to tonight, because there you see it. Stephen Hollingsworth has a pretty handed point lead over Tyler Seville. He's pretty much got this thing locked up with a strong finish here tonight. Jason Stewart, 34 markers back behind Hollingsworth. Then Tim Knott, Will Worcer there in 5th. And last I saw, Will Worcer was not on the entry list here tonight. Sam Maxwell sitting in 6th in points. And then Ed Bray, Larry Orn, Lee Staples, Doug Mullins on back. But I'll tell you what, Greg, we have seen a lot of fantastic racing this season. And Tyler Seville, who comes into tonight 2nd place in points, he picked up his first win of the season in the last race that we had at Rockingham just 2 weeks ago. Can he go for win number 2 here tonight?
Oh, he very well could, Peter. He's sitting 2nd on the charts right now. Only 2 cars finished that race on the lead lap. The other, of course, being Tim Knott in the number 41. He's here tonight as well. And that, Peter, was a result of those 2 drivers being able to conserve the tires at the cheese grater known as Rockingham Speedway just enough to be able to make it that 100-lap race. This one going to be a little bit different, though. This is a little bit of a newer surface than that of Rockingham. Tire management could still come into play, but I'm not expecting it to be as bad this week as it was last week, as there you see Tyler Seville in the number 11, last week's winner at Rockingham. And Peter, he has been so strong in this series, but believe it or not, it's actually his teammate Doug Mullins in the number 18 that leads the series and wins with 2. He's tied with Stephen Hollingsworth, the points leader. There is Mullins, and again, he's sporting that special paint scheme once again this week, Peter, going for a slide off of turn number 2.
Yeah, we've had 8 different winners in the first 10 races or so here in the Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson Thursday Night Throwback Cup Series. An absolutely impressive stat. The only 2 drivers to have 2 wins, like you mentioned, Stephen Hollingsworth and Tyler Seville. So keep an eye on them as they go for win number 3 on the season. They're currently 1-2 here in the practice session, as this practice session only has a couple seconds left. You're watching the Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson number 66 of Ed Bray working his way through turn number 3 and 4. And I'll tell you what, Greg, about to move over into the qualifying session. This is a racetrack that races a bit like a short track. With the fact that it's very flat, mile, you use a lot of brakes here. You roll through the center quite a bit. So this racetrack, we could see a little bit of beating and banging, and qualifying might be important.
Oh yeah, definitely, Peter. It's going to be an extremely important part of this race. Doug Mullen's already rolling out on track in the number 18. 2 wins on the season. Those were his first 2 victories in ASRS competition. Coming down now through turn 3 and 4. Peter, we're on board with Mullen, so take us for a lap around ISM Raceway, Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, I call it Phoenix International Raceway. That's what it was known back in the day. He works his way into turn number 1 and 2 right here. Very flat racetrack. You're going to go down below the dog leg. You can see that car really jostle there as the suspension loads up, going through that dog leg. And then turn number 3 and 4. And look at that handwork right there, getting really loosey-goosey. This number 18 machine trying to keep it going straight. This is one of my favorite racetracks due to the fact that you really have to watch the brakes. You see him hard on the brakes. The back end kicks out just a little bit there, just enough to get that car kind of sideways. He's still sawing on that wheel as he's going to go down and hit the dog leg once more. Comes back up on the racing surface, and then going to work his way here through turn number 3 and 4. And man, oh man, he's still trying to save it. That's not the fast way around the racetrack, but great save there out of the number 18 of Mullins. I don't think he will pick up time on lap number 2. We'll have to wait and see whether or not that's true or not. But currently, Doug Mullins sitting second on the board. Sam Maxwell in the number 98, currently on the provisional pole. How about that?
He's had a lot of speed so far in the number 98, and he just hit the wall a ton on his second lap in turn number 4, as does Jason Stewart in the number 1. Stewart, the Darlington winner in this series, as the rest of the field shaking out now. And this is the 43 of Richard Fletcher, one of the Will Wursler Racing entries in the qualifying session now. So drivers still trying to click up a lap time. So far, 7 have taken time. Fletcher coming around to complete his first lap. He will be the 9th car to take time as another one jumps in. And Fletcher will go 9th at a 31.72. Work to be done for Fletcher if he wants to get up there and try to have anything for Sam Maxwell. Maxwell in that Ford was extremely fast in practice today, Peter. And here he is on top of the board again in qualifying as you watch Fletcher on his second lap.
Yeah, we've yet to see the 202 of Stephen Hollingsworth come out there onto the racetrack. Comes into tonight as the points leader with that big, healthy margin. In fact, there he is out there on the racetrack right now, working his way into turn number 1. You can see those brake rotors already glowing. I mean, he's only been out there for a lap here in qualifying, as you can just see how that car hits the dog leg there on the backstretch. Now into turn number 3 and 4, going all the way down below the yellow line, trying to find some grip down there. And I'll tell you what, Greg, sometimes you can just loosen up the car just enough down using that line right there to get a launch up out of the corner. Hollingsworth in the 202. Where's he going to go on lap number 1? He's going to go to 3rd on the board. Looks like he's going to call it one and done as he pulls over in turn number 1. And there's the one machine of Jason Stewart. He's currently scored in 7th out of the 11 drivers who have elected to take time here. There's Alan Young, currently in 10th. We'll see if he's on his second lap here and see if he can pick it up. Doesn't look like he was on a time. Oh, yes, he was on a time lap. He's going to jump up to 5th position as live timing and scoring finally updates for that Young Gun Creations 24. And there's the one of Jason Stewart, still getting some practice laps in here tonight, Greg. I got to say, wise move to get more practice time here. This is not an easy racetrack with how much you're trying to balance the brakes. You're trying to balance the throttle here. Very flat racetrack. And you can see right there, track temperature 88 degrees. It's going to be a little slippery out there.
Yeah, going to be slippery, and that's why you're seeing these drivers get this extra practice in, including Jason Stewart. And he picked up a big win last night in the ASRS Development Series, the Truck Series for the American Sim Racing Series. It was Jason Stewart picking up the victory in that one just last night in their race. He has a win at Darlington in this series. You can catch that replay, as well as every other ASRS Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson Throwback Series race here on 3YTV in the archives. So the Darlington race win went to Jason Stewart. That was another one, Peter, that came down to some pit strategy, and Stewart was able to get the winning call on this one. And we've noticed it from Stewart both in this series and in the Hacksaw PC Premier Series, which is broadcasted on Tuesday nights. Stewart's not afraid to roll the dice.
Oh, yeah, he isn't. And he's picked up a win so far this season in the 87s as well. So he knows how to get to victory lane with these very tricky cars. It's been fantastic watching these drivers adapt to these 87 cars all season long. Of course, they are relatively new to the iRacing service, coming out just about 6 months ago. And, we started our season off at North Wilkesboro, which is, of course, a retro racetrack that iRacing went to go scan. And, now that the season's coming to a conclusion, but I'm really looking forward to next season for these guys because they're going to have an expanded schedule with these 87 cars, going to a lot of racetracks, and there's a lot of hype growing for next season with these cars.
And Peter, it's not just going to be your typical modern day cup style schedule with these 87 cars. No, they're going to primarily visit some of the historic venues of NASCAR. You're going to see a return to Rockingham in that schedule. You're going to see them hit Atlanta, which has always been a staple of this style of car. The old school Daytona, Talladega. You're going to see these drivers run a schedule very similar to what they ran back in the day when this style of car was the car that was running on Sunday afternoons on national television. So with that, looking very forward to the new rebranded for next year ASRS Classic Cup Series is going to be the name of it next year.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to see what these drivers can do in an expanded schedule. There's going to be a lot on the line again, as there always is here in the American Sim Racing Series, because, these drivers, they compete for quite a bit. In fact, speaking of competing for quite a bit, next Tuesday night, we get to crown a Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series champion for the American Sim Racing Series right here on 3Wide TV, 9 o'clock Eastern. Greg, we have a fantastic showdown, which will be right here at Phoenix International Raceway, because that's where that season comes to a conclusion. We're in the final round of the playoffs. We did see Greg Evans pull out a win on Tuesday night at Martinsville. He's got a pretty big points lead going into that final race after that win. But we still have one final piece of that puzzle to put in place, and it's going to be a good one here on 3Wide TV next week. A lot of championships to be crowned here in the American Sim Racing Series.
Yeah, definitely going to be looking forward to that one next Tuesday night here on 3Wide TV. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you get notified the moment we go on the air for that one. You are not going to want to miss that championship battle, which, Peter, we've talked about it all year long on Tuesdays. It has been a battle between those two, Greg Evans and John Jenkins, pretty much all season long. You couldn't ask for a better way for it to shake down or to come down to those two. Of course, Jimmy McKee and Adam Jersky still there trying to play spoiler, but it looks like it's going to be Evans and Jenkins battling it out for that championship.
Yeah, and what a crazy night it was for, Greg Evans getting the win, and John Jenkins seemed like the wheels kind of fell off on that number 7 machine. So there's a lot to play for next week. Like I said, there's a lot on the line with a Hacksaw PC personal computer, a real one put together by our friends over at Hacksaw PCs on the line. That's what the champion's going to get. So definitely a pretty awesome prize. Make sure you check out Hacksaw PCs, as well as our friends over Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson. They're, of course, the sponsor of tonight's series, and Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson, they are your one-stop shop for all Harley Davidson needs. So make sure you check out their website, and if you want to get someone a little bit of Harley in their life, that's the place to go. And, of course, with the holidays coming up, they have a lot of goodies on their website for you to go purchase, and let them know that you found out about them from the American Sim Racing Series. As we have just about a minute left here in qualifying session, Sam Maxwell looks like he's going to be starting on the pole here tonight. Greg, a great run for that number 98 Hacksaw PC's Ford.
A lot of speed in that number 98 Ford, like you mentioned. And we talked about it earlier. He was up near the top in practice pretty much all day. I think he came home third in final practice standings. And here he is on the pole. Great performance by Sam Maxwell. He needs a big run to kind of end this on a high note these last 2 weeks. That's a good way to start it off by getting the pole here at Phoenix for this 100-lap race here in the desert tonight.
I had a quick look here on Discord to see if I saw him in any of the channels. I was going to see if we could pull him in for a quick word in that number 98 machine, but doesn't look like he is here. So he probably wants to be left alone and, get his head in the right spot to finish out this season here in the penultimate round of the Boswell Country Roads Harley Davidson Thursday Night Throwback Cup Series. But all the drivers now starting to go down there onto the grid to get lined up here for tonight's race around the beautiful Phoenix International Speedway. Greg, why don't you take us through tonight's starting lineup?
I will do just that, Peter. Starting on the pole tonight will be Sam Maxwell in the Hacksaw PC's 98 Ford Thunderbird, with Tyler Seville, last week's winner for Will Worcester Racing, rolling off to his outside. Points leader Stephen Hollingsworth yet to present to grid, but he will start third in the 202 Folgers Coffee entry, with Doug Mullins, another Will Worcester car, behind him up in the fourth spot. That special paint scheme still on board. The inaugural winner in this series, winner of the first ever race, Alan Young in the number 24, will roll off in fifth. Tim Knott, second place last week at Rockingham, looking to go one spot better. He starts sixth here tonight. Larry Orn, hearing rumblings in the chat that he has been training with a live cougar in the room, and we all know how tough that is to beat from a certain movie that came out a while ago. He starts seventh, with Jason Stewart, the Darlington winner, rolling off in eighth. Michael Whiting in the number 44, always has fans in the chat, starts ninth, with Ed Bray with Boswell Country Roads Harley Davidson on board. He starts 10th. Richard Fletcher was the final car to qualify on time. He will start 11th, with Ross Tatum and Lee Staples taking provisionals for this one, Peter.
Yeah, I tried to bring my my Porsche 919 LMP1 car. I tried to bring it to the racetrack thinking that maybe it could somehow sneak through tech inspection. It didn't, long story short. So I was thinking that LMP1 hybrid would be able to smoke the field here tonight, but it didn't pass inspection, so I'm not out there on the racetrack. I'm just up here in the commentary booth, spending my birthday with all of you guys in the chat. Thank you guys for joining us. Alexander Vaughn, Samuel Olis in the chat. Doug Mullins saying, wow, this is tough. That number 18 machine, bright and colorful. You see him rolling off from the fourth position to the outside of your points leader, Stephen Hollingsworth. Keep an eye on him. That's a little bit of an inside joke, that paint scheme. So pretty funny. I'm sure a couple of people in the chat here tonight will understand what that's all about. But for Sam Maxwell, we've seen that Hacksaw PC's machine be fast all season, and maybe a slightly different look on that race car here tonight. I don't exactly remember that red stripe down the side for the entire season, but nonetheless, great to see the red number 98 that is synonymous with Sam Maxwell here in the series, pacing the field here as the pace truck dives down pit road. Hopefully we won't see much of the pace truck here tonight. The race about to go green, and there is the green flag waving here at the Phoenix International Raceway. Sam Maxwell gets us underway. It is 100 laps, 100 miles around this racetrack here tonight, and he's going to take the lead going off into turn number one. First side-by-side battle back there between the 202 and the number 18. Keep an eye on that 202 because he's been fast just about every single race we've been to with these 87 cars. He just has an absolute knack for them, going for second already here underneath the 11 of Seville.
We've talked about Hollingsworth in the 202. We were talking to him a little bit between races saying, hey, have you thought about maybe making a run at the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series next year? Says, unfortunately, it doesn't look like that will be in the cards due to some scheduling conflicts. So we can expect to see him back here in the Classic Cup Series next year, which is what this series will go as next year. But for this race and the finale coming up in a couple weeks, still the Thursday night throwback series, and Hollingsworth has been the guy with the consistent speed all season. Him and Tyler Seville, Peter, have probably been the two fastest cars in this series all season long. Shout out Doug Mullins as well with those two wins. Look at Alan Young, though, up to third already. Wilkesboro winner, the first ever winner in series history. That'll be a trivia question next year for some of our viewers. But Alan Young going for second now. He wants another win.
Yeah, that number 24 machine trying to become only the third driver to get more than one win is almost contact there with Sam Maxwell in the middle of turn number 3 and 4. You have to be careful about that here, Greg. There's quite a few lines to take through turns number 3 and 4. There's kind of the drive it in hard, deep, and then try and dime in the corner. There's the roll the center technique, which is personally my preferred way to get through turn number 3 and 4. But then there's the dog leg right there, and we saw Alan Young just dive to the inside through the dog leg. He got a good run on Sam Maxwell, and now He's side by side for the race lead. It looks like Alan Young's going to clear Sam Maxwell here coming out of turn number 4. New race leader here on lap number 4.
So Maxwell leads the first 3 laps and then give it to Alan Young in the number 24. Takes the lead coming to complete lap number 4. Working lap number 5 for Alan Young in the number 24 Wilkesboro winner, trying to pick up win number 2 and join Stephen Hollingsworth and Tyler Seville as the only 2 repeat winners. As you see Michael Whiting in the 44 kind of taking a very high line there through the dog leg. He's back there in a battle with Ed Bray. Battles going on throughout the field as Seville taking a peek to the inside of Hollingsworth. Again, Seville and Hollingsworth 1-2 in the points. Was about to say that's your 2 repeat winners, but no, the other Will Worcester car in the field, Doug Mullins, is the repeat winner with Hollingsworth.
Yeah, but they are your top 2 in points, like you mentioned. So Seville here, man, he really needs a lot of luck to happen in these final 2 races to overcome that 24-point deficit coming into tonight. And it doesn't look like anything's going to happen for here because the 202 of Hollingsworth got shot out of a cannon coming out of turn number 4. Not only was he able to hold off the number 11, he was able to dive to the inside of the number 98 of Sam Maxwell, Hacksaw PC's Ford Thunderbird. And Sam Maxwell, your pole sitter now, going to slide back to 3rd. He got passed through the dogleg. We saw it similar a couple laps ago when Alan Young just drove to the inside through the dogleg. So maybe that's something Sam Maxwell here, he might be playing it a little bit safe at this point, Greg, because he knows that sometimes that dogleg can make the car a little bit unsettled. And so he's, he definitely has pace. Maybe just biding his time a little bit in that Ford Thunderbird. He's 1 spot in front of Tyler Seville, and right behind Tyler Seville is the number 18 of Mullins. In fact, a lot of cars now electing to avoid going down in the dogleg. Bit surprised by that, just with how that dogleg tends to shorten up the racetrack quite a bit there and help your lap time, but that'll be something we will keep an eye on as the night goes on. Currently quietly riding in the 6th position, the 231 of Larry Orn. Got a little bit of a buffer in front of him to the 18 of Mullins, but then a pretty big buffer back to the number 41 of T.N.T, who had a runner-up finish in the last race 2 weeks ago at the Rockingham Speedway. And he's running right in front of Ross Tatum, who's picked up a couple positions from the start of the race. He's gained 4. Lee Staples in the number 26. He's picked up 5 positions from the start of the race.
Ross Tatum in the number 242. I got the chance to call him in a race on another channel last night, picked up a podium finish in that race. So he's riding some momentum after a 3rd place finish in a Cup Series last night. But Peter, I want to go back to your point a moment ago about the dogleg and how we're seeing not as many drivers as we think or thought we would take that dogleg. We saw T.N.T do it in the number 41 that lap, but he slides up the track. I want to tell you about something I was noticing in the early stages when they were taking the dogleg, primarily the Chevy Monte Carlos. They were getting really hoppy on the dogleg. That thing was bouncing almost monster truck style when they entered the dogleg. We'll see if anyone does it this time. And Tyler Seville's going to, and as does Hollingsworth a little bit. It was really bobbling and hopping up and down there in the dogleg. So I'm wondering if that's why these drivers are saying, no, I'm not going to take the dogleg, because they don't want to risk messing up the suspension early in this one. We're 10 laps in, make it 11 here at the line. Alan Young leading the way, but that may be why we're not seeing these guys in the dogleg here early, Peter.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying about Sam Maxwell. He might just be biding his time, as it looks like he is going to potentially lose the position to the number 11 as he has some connection issues there in the hacksawpcs.com Ford Thunderbird. He will slide back into 4th now, under fire from the number 18 of Mullins. It probably won't be too long before he might have to drop to the tail end of the longest line if his connection doesn't sort itself out. That's, of course, one of the rules here in the series. And Doug Mullins now going to try and get the 4th spot away from your pole sitter here tonight. Mullins going to pull down to the bottom side of that dog leg, try and get that momentum. And you can see it definitely has an advantage going down that low, Greg, because you could just see how Mullins was able to pull on the number 98 when he kind of cut the course like he did. But we're not seeing all too many cars do it here in the early portions of the race. We'll see how that evolves going forward. Russ Tatum has made a move past T.N.T. That moves him up into 7th spot, trying to track down Larry Orn right now in the 231.
Yeah, Tatum trying to close in, but you're on board right now with second place and points leader Stephen Hollingsworth in the 202. He has caught Alan Young in the number 24. Alan Young, when he won that race in North Wilkesboro, at first we were like, oh boy, Alan Young is going to be hard to beat in this series. However, because of other conflicts in the number 24, other obligations, only able to make a couple of starts in this series, which has opened the door for the man we're on board with right now, Stephen Hollingsworth, to be able to get the points lead. He won the second race in this series' existence at Charlotte a couple of weeks after the Alan Young victory at Wilkesboro. And since then, Hollingsworth has really been Mr. Consistency in the season, which has showed with his 2 victories this year at Charlotte and Michigan.
And I'll tell you what, Greg, I'm really looking forward to the season finale here in a couple of weeks because we go to Nashville Fairgrounds. How about that? Another retro NASCAR track that these drivers are going to go to. I know Stephen Hollingsworth will want to get to victory lane there, but I broadcasted a race last week from that racetrack, and Nashville Fairgrounds somewhat has a little bit of a North Wilkesboro vibe to it. Of course, one of the older racetracks, another short track, so I'm expecting the number 24 Young Gun Creations Chevrolet Monte Carlo to be fast there as well. But for right now, he's fast here tonight, holding on to the race lead by just a couple tenths over Stephen Hollingsworth, who's all over his back bumper. Then it's a long gap back to Tyler Seville, currently 1.5 seconds behind the race lead. He's got his teammate Doug Pullins right behind him. And then Sam Maxwell, your pole sitter here tonight, kind of sliding around. Oh, big slide out of the number 24 of Alan Young. That is going to give the race lead to the number 202 of Hollingsworth. We'll have to go back and catch this one on the replay because I'm not 100% sure there wasn't any contact between the front two. Both of those cars appear to not have any damage. That's the good news, but they continue to battle for that position. There might have been just a nudge from the front nose of that 202 on the back of the 24. Looks like they're going to get things sorted out here on the racetrack. We'll get another look at this one from high atop the blimp cam going into turn number 3. Let's see if there's a nudge. And yep, right there, just a little bit of a nudge to the left rear quarter panel.
Just a little nudge. And what this has done is they continue the battle side by side. We're back live. Look in the back there because that black and green machine of Tyler Seville, he has begun to reel them in because of that here in the 202. Did you see how low Stephen Hollingsworth went through the dogleg there? There's cutting the dogleg and then there's slicing the dogleg, and that's exactly what Hollingsworth just did there. And no doubt he's going to be fast. Whoa, at Wilkesboro next year. Boy, Tyler Seville is the best seat in the house for this right now as Young makes a big slide and a save off of turn number 4. Both these drivers, and you can expect Seville and Mullins as well to also be fast at Nashville in a couple of weeks' time for the finale here. And Peter, a little bit about the history of the ASRS. Back in the NR 2003 days, Nashville was considered the home track for the American Sim Racing Series in pretty much every single series that they ran. So when Nashville came to the iRacing server, series director Jim Foose was probably the happiest person in the iRacing realms because that meant they could finally go back to the original home of this series, and they are doing just that 3 times. There's a super late model race coming up that's going to be streamed on another channel, and then we've got our Hacksaw PC's All-Star race for the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series coming up 2 weeks after the finale at Phoenix here next week. And then this series' finale at Nashville as well. So it didn't take long for that series to make its return to Nashville. Already 3 dates on the schedule for just this month and more coming next year for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan Young and the Young Gun Creations Chevrolet able to hold on to the race lead, but you mentioned Tyler Seville and that black and green number 11. He's right on the back bumper of the 202 right now. You see the 202 of Hollingsworth right there all over the back of the 24. Was able to hold him off. Fantastic side-by-side racing, almost clipping the wall there coming out of turn number 4, but he's going to get things settled down here. And man, 202 of Hollingsworth looking underneath them again, just trying to show that nose. Looks like they're going to stay single file at least for now, but I'm really impressed with this early run by that number 24 of Alan Young. Not to be all too surprised, did get that win, like you mentioned, at North Wilkesboro, and I did mention at the top of the show that this racetrack kind of races like a short track in the fact that it is flat and you use a lot of brakes, Greg.
And I think it's a safe bet to say some drivers, not all, of course, but I would say a good number of drivers would actually consider this a short track, Peter. The typical definition of short track is 1 mile or under, and this track is a mile long. It's up to user discretion on whether or not they count mile tracks like Phoenix, Dover, New Hampshire as per se short tracks or not. All three of those, of course, 1 mile in length. So it's user discretion on those. I consider Phoenix a short track. New Hampshire and Dover, I don't know. The way they drive, I don't consider them short tracks. This one, I would consider a short track.
Yeah, this definitely kind of blurs the lines between a short track and an intermediate track. You know, a lot of people said back in the day that you could bring your Richmond setup, which is a pretty high bank short track, to Phoenix, and it would work pretty darn good. I don't know if that still holds true, especially with the reconfiguring of this racetrack a little bit nowadays. But definitely, it does race like a short track. That's why you could bring that Richmond, which is undoubtedly a short track, package to this track, and it race all right. I mean, that was even true back in the NASCAR Racing 2003 days. In fact, speaking of NASCAR Racing 2003 days, I want to toot my own horn a little bit, but this was actually the first track I ever got a Cup Series win at back in the NASCAR Racing 2003 days. And it was a fantastic uh, race, the American Muscle Racing Series, as we have a side-by-side battle for the race lead. Hollingsworth's going to drop to the inside of that number 24 machine here going through the dogleg, and it looks like Hollingsworth's going to pull off that pass. No, Young dives it down deep into turn number 3, but Young unable to hold on to it up there. Looks like the number 11 of Tyler Seville going to try and pick up second. Not able to do so. Young's going to hold him off at least for now.
Nicely done by Hollingsworth in the 202 to get the lead. Wasn't able to close it out last time, but is able to do it this time. You mentioned your first NR 2003 win coming at this track and the debate on whether or not it's a short track. We're going to pop that question to the chat. Would you consider tracks 1 mile in length or under? Well, under for sure, but tracks mile in length, specifically Phoenix, New Hampshire, and Dover, as those are the 3 1 mile tracks that NASCAR hits. Would you consider them short tracks or intermediate tracks? We've already cast our vote. I want to know what those in the chat are thinking. And Peter, real quick, back to NR 2003. We talk about it as if it's a bygone era, but that game, 16, actually 18 years old now, is still going very, very strong. Even today, a lot of drivers on the iRacing server, they also still hop into NR 2003 once in a while and go out and have some nostalgia runs.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I raced a lot of NASCAR Racing 2003 season back in the day, and it was the best you could get for many, many years. I mean, even when iRacing first came out, it didn't have all the mods that you had for NASCAR Racing 2003 season. You could race just about anything you wanted as we look at this battle a little bit further back. Tim versus Larry Orn, and that is, of course, the 242 machine of Ross Tatum trying to work his way up from the back of the pack. But they never really had the 87 cars, I don't believe, but they did have the Aero 88s. That was one of the more official mods for the NASCAR Racing 2003 season that a lot of people used to run. Larry Orn there on the high line looks like he's going to lose out that spot to Ross Tatum, so move Tatum up to 7. But I ran a lot of those mods, man. You could run super lates, you could run even Group C Le Mans cars, you could run the Trans Am cars, you could run National Series trucks, whatever it was, you name it, they had it. And so they're still, to this day, people are making mods for that game, and it definitely is a big thing here in the American Sim Racing Series. They don't race it anymore, but of course, the American Sim Racing Series goes back to those NASCAR Racing 2003 days. I mean, it predates the NASCAR Racing 2003 days. We talk about the All-American 400. That's in its 20th year this year, I believe. So, you do the math. That was predating 2003. So, definitely a strong point, a strong talking point here in the American Sim Racing Series. I know a lot of these drivers, Jim Foose, league owner and organizer, he has a soft spot in his heart for NASCAR Racing 2003 season, and I do myself. Such a fantastic game with basically limitless opportunities, unlike iRacing, where you're kind of stuck to whatever iRacing has. Up towards the front, Sam Maxwell in the number 98 machine, your pole sitter here, starting to move his way forward as he had fallen back to fifth. He just got around the number 18 of Doug Mullins, who has lost a little bit of time to Tyler Seville. Stephen Hollingsworth, your race leader, now up to a half-second advantage over Alan Young. But we continue to watch this battle as it looks like Mullins, he isn't going to go down without a fight here, Greg.
No, he's really not. He has been up in the top 5 all day. Maxwell able to get back around him. Mullins had gotten by him about, 15 laps ago. Mullins was able to make that pass. Maxwell, the pole sitter, now he's showing that speed that he has once again in that number 98, trying to work his way back up there to the 4th position now. Right now you're on board with Mullins' teammate, Tyler Seville, in the 11, last week's winner at Rockingham, riding around in the 3rd position, trying to track down the Wilkesboro winner, Alan Young, and get around him. And Peter, one thing that we can kind of touch on a little bit here, for next Tuesday for the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, these drivers that are going to be competing in it, Alan Young, Tyler Seville, Doug Mullins, Tim Knott, and we know Michael Whiting will be there, Jason Stewart, Lee Staples, and Ed Bray. Maybe we haven't seen them a couple times. Richard Fletcher running part-time. They're getting some good laps in here. Yes, it's going to be a little bit of a different version, but they're going to be able to get a good feel for what to expect next Tuesday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely interesting to see that some of the drivers like Will Warser not in tonight's race. I mean, I was expecting to see Will here to try and get some practice time. And because we saw in the last Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson Thursday Night Throwback Series race at Rockingham, the drivers actually came off of a race in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series on Tuesday night, and then they ran at Rockingham Thursday night. And a couple of the drivers said, yeah, I learned something on Tuesday night, and I was able to translate that into Thursday night. Now, I'm not going to say it's not going to work the other way around, but I think it would. You know, these drivers out here tonight trying to get just a little bit more lap times around this racetrack. Of course, I believe that, perhaps you can correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, that we're running the kind of the modern Phoenix, but nonetheless, even the modern Phoenix, they're similar shape, you know, just to kind of find your brake markers and find where you are on the racetrack relative to the wall. That's a very key thing here at this racetrack, and something that I personally have always struggled with at this racetrack, because we'll see if we can go on board with one of these drivers so I can kind of speak to my point. But coming out of turn number 4, the racetrack narrows up quite drastically right about here. It just starts to narrow up, and all of a sudden that wall, you can kind of see how you're almost pointed at an angle towards that wall. Very difficult to kind of see when to get on the throttle. Now, conversely, turn number 1 and 2, the racetrack kind of opens up. It's a very shallow exit, and if you don't get on the throttle early enough, you'll end up killing your speed all the way down this backstretch off into turn number 3. Meanwhile, out of turn number 2, if you get on the throttle too early, it can be sometimes very difficult to figure out whether or not you're going to hit the wall or not. And I see quite a few drivers over the years make mistakes coming out of turn number 2 as well as turn number 4 for 2 very different reasons. One, turn number 4, track narrows up. Turn number 2, track opens up. So it's a tricky racetrack to get around. I like to call it the tricky triangle in the desert.
Definitely a very unique racetrack, Peter. You're on board with Alan Young. Speaking to your point, some drivers would even go as far to say that this is an oval that almost drives a little bit like a road course with those different corners here on corner exits. Some drivers have compared this track to a road course style feel when you're riding around. Not too many tracks in the iRacing server can say that, but Phoenix has always been one of those tracks that they kind of classify it a little bit like that.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, we've talked about it a couple times here tonight that this racetrack is like a short track with the fact that you use the brakes so much. But yeah, definitely similar to a road course as well due to how much you use your brakes. And I think personally that's one of the reasons why I have always performed pretty well at this racetrack. I consider myself one of those road course ringers. I love racing road courses. Unfortunately, not able to get my Porsche 919 hybrid on the racetrack here tonight, but I love road courses. And this racetrack, the way you have to roll out of the throttle, it's so flat. You have to pick up the throttle. You have to find a groove down there to just find that little bit of grip that some other people can't find on flat racetracks like this. I think a little bit of road course experience does help for sure at this racetrack. But definitely the 202 of Stephen Hollingsworth, he's got something figured out because he has been the fastest race car over the last 10 laps. He's gotten himself now up to a 1.5 second lead or so, and about a second lead, excuse me, about 1.5 seconds back to Tyler Seville. Sam Maxwell, on the other hand, he's making a little bit of inroads on Tyler Seville, not a whole lot. In fact, your top four or so running pretty similar lap times. I have noticed a big drop off, though, in the number 18 machine of Doug Mullins over the last few laps. The number 18 has been about 0.3 of a second slower than your top four, and he's continuing to slide back now, almost into the clutches of T.N.T, not about 1.5 seconds back behind him. But Greg, caution free here through about the first half of the race. I expect to see these drivers on pit road here pretty shortly.
I was actually just getting ready to ask you that, Peter. With us closing in on the halfway stage, clean and green thus far, I was going to ask when you thought we were going to see them on pit road. We know no doubt they're coming to pit road because I think that's what's going on with the 18 of Mullins. I think those tires are used and abused on that number 18. And this is where the guys like Tyler Seville and Stephen Hollingsworth, who have been able to make a name for themselves saving tires, have always come to the forefront. As Seville putting pressure on Young for a second. You're watching a battle of Orn and Stewart. Stewart not one to shy away from rolling the dice in that number one winner at Darlington in this series earlier this year. But we're about 4 laps away from halfway now, Peter. At what point would you expect to see these guys on pit road for green flag pit stops?
You know, I think back to what we saw last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, at Rockingham here in the Boswell Country Roads Harley Davidson series. Flat tires, drivers who had just pushed their right side tires to the point at which they popped. If I'm one of these drivers, I do not want to get even into the realm of possibility of getting a flat tire here tonight. I'm coming down at halfway, throw myself some new fresh tires on it. But the big question here tonight, Greg, we've seen it a couple times this year where 2 tires is a better gamble than 4. And the reason why is the pit stops here in this series are very, very long. With these 1987 pit crews, the pit stop times are upwards of 20 seconds. If you take 2 tires, that really makes your pit stop a lot faster. And here we go, battle for second now. Seville finally trying to get underneath the 24 of Alan Young. It's finally done it after languishing right behind him in the rearview mirror for quite a few laps. He's going to try and roll the inside, much like the 202 of Hollingsworth did about 15, 20 laps ago. Almost contact there between the two. In fact, there might have just been a slight nudge, but that is going to allow Tyler Seville to get up into second. Anyway, going back to the point, and I think this is a critical point. That's why I'm going to come back to it. 2 tires or 4 tires. It's about 7 to 8 seconds faster to only take 2 tires. Here's Doug Mullins. I mentioned that he was struggling on his old tires out there. He's going to be our first taker on pit road. We're halfway this time by. Any other takers on pit road this time? Doesn't appear to be anyone else. Oh, yes, Sam Maxwell, the number 98 machine, your pole sitter here. He's coming down pit road. He's going to be at that pit road speed, 45 miles an hour, coming to his pit crew. 2 tires or 4 tires? That is going to be the key question. I'm keeping my eye on Doug Mullins. Looks like right side's on. He's going for 4 tires on the number 18 Chevy Monte Carlo. What will the number 98, as well as it appears the number 1 of Jason Stewart has elected to come down pit road as well?
And remember, Peter, the 18 of Mullins won that race at Atlanta earlier. He did not change left side tires all race long. He said that wasn't exactly the plan. It was kind of an accident, but it worked out as he got the win. So that proved that you could go the entire race on the left side tires. But You might not necessarily want to. By the way, I'm looking at the 98 and Maxwell was coming off pit road, Peter. Heavy right side damage on both the front and the back. That number 98 car, the pole sitter of Maxwell, there's no doubt in my mind that car has been in the wall.
Yeah, in fact, that's relatively new as well. I think that happened just about 4 or 5 laps ago or so. He got loose in turn number 3, maybe just a little bit too late on the brakes, and he actually caught a good piece of the turn 4 wall, kind of did a drift all the way through turn number 3 and 4. So Sam Maxwell back out there. I believe he elected to take 4 tires. In fact, I'm not seeing any 2-tire pit stops yet. But it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Alan Young in the 24, I don't think he has much to lose if he decides to take 2 tires. I'm looking at tire fall off. And one thing I have noticed, Greg, is tire fall off here at Phoenix is actually a little bit more than what we have seen at most racetracks this season. Stephen Hollingsworth's fastest lap time here tonight at 29.259. He is currently running a 31.1, so about 1.9 seconds slower, and perhaps that is what some of these drivers are thinking about here tonight. And they might also be thinking about the car balance, because we've seen these cars be pretty slippery, and we all know that usually taking 2 tires loosens the car up, especially when you take 2 fresh right sides.
Definitely, Peter. Michael Whiting off and on pit road in the number 44. He took 4 tires on the number 44, so added him to the list of drivers who have come down pit road and took 4 tires as the rest of the field. Here comes Tyler Seville in the number 11, and the race leader, Stephen Hollingsworth. Alan Young stayed out, so Young's going to lead the lap as the top 2 are on pit road right now. There they are.
Yeah, so far everyone's taken 4 tires. We'll see if Hollingsworth and Seville hold station with that. Ross Tatum also seeing some right side damage on the 242 Coca-Cola Chevrolet. He's currently in turn number 1 and 2. He's yet to come down to make a pit stop. Michael Whiting also sees some right side damage on that race car. But Alan Young, Young Gun Creations Chevrolet, he looks like he's going to continue to stay out here, going to come around yet again, come across the start finish line. There he is, got Whiting to the inside. Looks like he's going to let Whiting on by here.
Hollingsworth and Seville, both 2 tires, Peter. We just saw our first 2 tire stops. It was the leaders, Hollingsworth and Seville.
So maybe they've learned their lesson from the multiple races that we've seen this season. I mean, I'm thinking about Stephen Hollingsworth. We've seen him dominate a couple of races this year, Greg. He's decided to take those 2 tires, and it has worked against him. Here comes the 24 of Alan Young. Does he know what his competitors have done? Is he going to try that 2-tire strategy, or is he going to go for 4? We'll have to wait and find out. Meanwhile, that should give the race lead to the number 242 right there. Ross Tatum, your new race leader, with 44 laps to go here at the Phoenix International Raceway. 43 laps to go as these laps continue to tick by pretty quick here tonight. If you're just now joining us here on 3Y TV, clean and green for the first 57 laps, and we're just now making our halfway pit stops. Only 1 set of tires on pit road, so these drivers will now have to take these tires all the way to the end. That man right there, your race leader, has yet to make his final pit stop here tonight.
Alan Young is going to take 4 tires on pit road in the number 24. Larry Orrin also on pit road. T.N.T has been on pit road, so that will leave only Ross Tatum in the number 242 as the only driver that has yet to come down pit road. He's got Doug Mullins behind him. Doug Mullins was the one who led the charge onto pit road in that number 18, but so far, Peter, only 2 cars taking those 2 tires. It was Hollingsworth and Seville. Everyone else thus far I've seen take 4 tires. So the question is, will that be a payoff at the end for them? And what does Ross Tatum do? Remember, Tatum making only his 2nd start in this series. What's he thinking for this? He's already proven that he's going to stretch it as far as he can. Is he going to try to nurse it around to get himself set up for a 2-tire pit stop? Will he take 4? I don't know. He's still staying out there right now in the 242, so he's going to make it as far as he physically can here in that 242 car.
Yeah, let's see if we can bring up the last lap times for these drivers up there at the top of the screen, because I'm keeping an eye right now on the lap times being put out by Stephen Hollingsworth and Tyler Seville relative to some of the drivers who did take 4 tires. Right now, Tyler Seville, Stephen Hollingsworth, fastest 2 cars on the racetrack. Drivers like 4 tires, like Alan Young, well, this time by Alan Young is a smidgen faster. When I say a smidgen, only 2/100ths of a second. And if you compare their pit stop times, Alan Young, 22-second pit stop time. You compare that to Stephen Hollingsworth, 13-second pit stop time. They're running pretty much equivalent lap times, Greg, but yet Hollingsworth and Seville 9-second faster pit stops. I mean, that is huge right now. 9 seconds is absolutely massive at this racetrack. It's about a third of a lap.
Third of a lap is huge here at this racetrack, Peter. 15 seconds back now to Hollingsworth from Tatum. Seville 3 seconds behind him. Fletcher in fourth. I don't believe Richard Fletcher has pitted yet either, now that I think about it, because remember, he went a lap down just before that cycle started. Fletcher, of course, the third Will Worsler Racing entry. I don't believe he's been on pit road either. Then you find Sam Maxwell in number 98, the pole sitter, in fifth with that heavy damage. 6 cars on the lead lap as Doug Mullins has just got his lap back under green, as Tatum has still yet to visit pit road. So this race beginning, Peter, to kind of unfold a little bit like we saw last week when only 2 cars wound up on the lead lap at the end.
Yeah, I still think there's plenty of time for something to happen. Anything can and usually does happen in racing. There's the 43 of Fletcher, like you mentioned, running in the 4th position as of right now. He is being caught by Sam Maxwell, who has recently pitted about 13 laps ago. So Fletcher right there, still probably hoping for a yellow at this point, Greg, so he could come down and get some fresh tires. And it could swing in his advantage if he does get a yellow, because he could come down and all the other cars can't take any fresh tires because they have used their one and only set here tonight. So that might be the reason that Fletcher's staying out there, kind of just hoping for a yellow, getting a little bit off strategy. And I don't blame him because of the fact that he did fall a lap down. Right now, he is currently on.
This is only his second race in that number 242 this season, so he hasn't had that experience. He didn't have the stuff that happened in Atlanta, Wilkesboro, and Pocono, just to name a few tracks that we've been to, Darlington as well. So he hasn't had that luxury of that experience. So he's out there kind of learning what some of these drivers already have learned, but he's doing not a bad job of it, though, in at number 242. We're about 7 laps away from the 3/4 mark. He's just trying to catch a yellow. If so, he's going to be sitting very pretty, I think, if he can catch a yellow. But the question is, how much longer can he go before he absolutely has to come down pit road?
Yeah, that is a good question. Now I'm continuing to watch lap times throughout the field. Stephen Hollingsworth in the 2nd place right now, 11 seconds behind Ross Tatum. He's slowing down. You know, his lap times are really about already, I think, 1.3 seconds slower than where we saw him when he was out there on fresh rubber. Last time by, Hollingsworth at 30.5. Compare that to Ross Tatum, and we have a caution. Caution flag is out here at Phoenix, and it's the number 18 of Doug Mullins who's had an issue here. Looks like coming out of turn number 2, and that is going to change everything. Let's see exactly what happened here, Greg.
Doug Mullins in the 18 on screen, just like we saw in practice and qualifying, just kind of got away from him there off of turn number 2. This changes everything. Ross Tatum catches a break. Peter, there is only 6 cars on the lead lap. Larry Orn is going to get the lucky dog. Ross Tatum, a chance to change these tires. He's going to be 8th on the grid, I believe, once it's all said and done, or 7th, excuse me, as Orn is going to have to start tail end of the field. Wow. Ross Tatum just hit the jackpot there.
Yeah, and I was just mentioning that Stephen Hollingsworth, he's fallen off about 1.5 seconds since he was last on pit road. Well, now that 242 of Ross Tatum, he can come down, he can get 4 fresh tires. He's going to be about 1.5 seconds faster than Hollingsworth. Everyone definitely going to be interested. Now, here's an interesting thing. Did these drivers get 2 sets of tires here tonight, Greg? Because it looks like the whole field's coming down. Usually they only get 1 set here in the Boswell Country Roads. Did they get 2 sets on pit road this week?
Looking at it right now, 2 sets of tires on pit road right now. So they will be able to pull this off. So maybe not for Ross Tatum, because now he's going to have both Hollingsworth and Seville on fresh rubber. And this is big for them, that extra set of tires on pit road, because they took 2 tires in their cars. Sam Maxwell on pit road as well. They took 2 on that last one. They haven't seen. Oh, Hollingsworth taking 2 again. Seville staying on with 4. Stephen Hollingsworth committed to that 2-tire strategy. He took 2 there. Tatum already off track. I believe Maxwell may have taken 2 as well. Seville on coming off pit road now. So mixed bag on pit road there. Hollingsworth and Maxwell, 2 tire stops. So that's going to change up everything.
Yeah, without a doubt. I was expecting them to only have one set of Goodyear tires like they have in races past here in the Boswell Country Roads Harley Davidson. My apologies for everyone in the chat, but yeah, Stephen Hollingsworth, 2 tires once again. He's gonna possibly go 100 laps on those left sides. Can those left side tires hold up? Can Ross Tatum in the 242 make a charge to the front? Richard Fletcher, he elected to stay out first time by. He will come back in on pit road second lap by. So that 43 machine will get 4 fresh tires, and we'll see how many of these drivers elect to use the wave around. I'd expect a good chunk of them would elect to use the wave around here in front and stay in front of that 202 machine. Looked like that's what we've got. Michael Whiting out there. Doug Mullins looks like he's going to take the wave around. T.N.T, Jason Stewart as well. Lee Staples looks like he's not going to be taking the wave around. Same with Ed Bray. Both the 26 and the 66 LA SimSport drivers, they both just came down pit road. But 28 laps ago this time by, Greg, and I'm kind of curious to see what some of these drivers are thinking. Let's see if we can dial up. Oh, no, pace truck lights have turned off. I was going to see if we could dial up your race leader, but I don't want to interfere with him as the pace truck lights turn off. We're about to get set to go green. You're just now joining us. The first caution flag here tonight, coming around lap number 69. And definitely going to be a shootout to the finish here tonight on 3 Wide TV. I'm Peter Short. Joining in the booth here tonight is Greg Rentz. And Greg, going to be a fun one here. Just 27 laps when you go back green. Penultimate race of the season. Who you got for the finish?
Well, first off, again, you saw the birthday cake. You can't think of a better way to celebrate your birthday, Peter? But, you know, I've always been an advocate, especially on tire wear tracks like this, 4 tires every time. I like the guy that won last week on tire management, Tyler Seville. 4 fresh tires, has that experience factor, knows what to expect, riding momentum. I like Seville in 4th.
I like your pick as well. Green flag back in the air. And now we're going to watch, does that 202 machine have grip? We mentioned it earlier here, folks. When you go on 2 tires, usually that makes the race car a little bit more loosey-goosey. And that 202 for right now looks like he's holding everything together. There's Sam Maxwell going to drop to the low side of the racetrack through the dogleg. He's trying to track down the 202. Remember, Maxwell, he was your pole sitter here tonight. Whoa, a little bit of a slide out of the 202 there of Ross Tatum right in the middle. And we got one car going around. That's the 66 of Ed Bray back there. Caution flag back in the air here at Phoenix.
Yeah, right at the 3/4 mark of this one. And now cautions beginning to breed cautions here at Phoenix. Ed Bray, the 66, going around here to bring out our second caution right on the restart. And much like we saw at Doug Mullins, just a different spot on the racetrack, just got away from him.
Yeah, that was one of those slow, lazy spins, and Ed Bray just looped it there. He's able to get it back going straight. It looks like he's going to stay 1 lap down. We'll see if Lee Staples is going to get the lucky dog or not. Lee Staples' first car 1 lap down after all that mess. And let's see if we can now dial up the 202 of Hollingsworth. We're going to try and get him under that last caution. Let's see if we can get him under this one here on 3 Wide TV. Hey, Hollingsworth, this is Peter Short here in the 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, man.
Well, you know, you elected to take those 2 tires on that race car right there for that what we assume will be your final pit stop off the night. I was a little bit concerned that 2 tires will make that car a little bit slippery for you. You know, is that in the back of your mind? How are you going to deal with a loose race car for these final 25 laps or so?
Well, I would actually prefer a loose race car. This car gets pretty tight on the long run, especially when you get on the under somebody trying to pass them. So I wanted to loosen it up, so I decided to take right sides throughout the whole race. And my lefts are pretty good. I mean, I'm not really worried about them. I prefer a loose race car.
Well, loose is fast, isn't that what they say? But nonetheless, great race for you here tonight. Didn't start on the pole, but you've led the most laps here in the first 75 laps. Looking for a championship possibly. Comes into tonight as the points lead. How important is it for you to just walk away with a solid finish here tonight?
Yeah, that's the goal. Just to finish and try to finish up front. I'm not gonna race too hard uh, here at the end. Just try to maintain pace and hit my marks. Should be all right.
All right. Well, Steven, we'll let you get back to it. Best of luck there, bud.
Thank you.
All right, that is the 202, Stephen Hollingsworth, your current race leader. Let's see if we can dial up one of the other drivers here tonight. How about that third place driver right there, Greg, the 242 at Tatum there, Greg?
Yeah, Ross Tatum, Greg Runs 3YTV, having a nice run here. You tried to stay out as long as you could to catch the caution, and it paid off. 4 tires for you here, sitting third late in the going. How's it going out there?
It's going pretty good. I honestly don't know. I haven't really ran the car hard all night, so I don't really know what I got right here. Hopefully I got something for Steven, but he's going to be hard to beat.
The good news for you as far as that regard is he's on 2 tires. He's doing a little bit of a gamble. The problem is he says he likes it with that little bit of a looser feel on there. So with that being said, you are the first car on 4 tires. Both of these cars in front of you have 2. Lights are off on the pace car, so we'll make this quick. What do you think you're going to have to do to get around him?
I don't know. I gotta figure out how hard I can push my car. I still haven't figured that out. So hopefully I can figure it out in the next couple laps and maybe make a move on them.
All right, man. Good luck the rest of the way. Maybe we'll see you on the top 3.
Thank you.
Well, how about that, Greg? Ross Tatum, 2 nights in a row for you interviewing that man. So we'll have to see whether we get to interview him after the race as well. But the good news for Ross Tatum is you'll be starting to the inside of row number 2, right behind your race leader, Stephen Hollingsworth. And I think that's going to be an advantage for him, Greg.
Yeah, Hollingsworth in the 202. And this has been a thing on the iRacing server, that second row inside. Peter, I've noticed that more and more I see racing and participate in racing. Second row inside has a huge advantage, but boy, Maxwell did a nice job coming through the gears there in the 98. He's going to be able to get down in front of Tatum. And look at Seville push on the outside to get around Tatum for third, going for second. Remember, Seville also on 4 fresh tires, well, fresh-ish. Remember, he won last week at Rockingham using that tire-saving strategy. He's going to rocket around Maxwell. So here comes Seville, winner at Texas last week, and he picked up the win in the Throwback Series. This would be 3 wins and 4 starts in ASRS competition for Seville if he can get around Hollingsworth, but that's easier said than done with 21 laps to go.
Yeah, Tyler Seville, cue up the Jaws music. We can't play it. We already got one strike this week by YouTube. We're disputing that, folks. If you're just now joining us for the American Sim Racing Series and you're wondering what happened to that Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series race from this past Tuesday, don't worry, folks. We're disputing it, and hopefully we can have that back up for you here on YouTube here fairly shortly. So hopefully we can get that in the next couple of days. But Tyler Seville currently running in the 2nd position, trying to close in on Hollingsworth. Sam Maxwell back in 3rd. Ross Tatum, though, he's under fire from Alan Young, and he's going to lose that position. So Alan Young with a slide in turn number 3 and 4. Looks like Alan Young now going to have the over-under. Here comes Ross Tatum coming back at him as they head down the front stretch. This is the battle for the 4th position. Ross Tatum said he needs to find that short run speed very quickly. He hasn't really pushed the car all night long, and now he's going to take that spot back from Young. So good hard racing between these two, trading spots back and forth between Young and Tatum for a top 5.
Yeah, Tatum has decided it's go time. Beep, beep, I got to go. I got to see what my car's got because there's less than 20 laps to go here in this second to last race, the penultimate race. Wow, did you see how close Orrin and Young were there off of turn number 4? You couldn't fit a piece of paper between the two of them off of turn number 4 there as Young gets back to the bottom of Tatum. This is for 4th position on the charts right now. Sam Maxwell has had a nice recovery as well in that number 98, the Hacksaw PC's entry in 3rd place, right in front of Alan Young, who has now cleared Ross Tatum. Alan Young, Wilkesboro winner, trying to track down both Sam Maxwell and get up to the 2-time winners here this season, or excuse me, I did it again. Seville with only 1 win. Hard to believe Seville only has 1 win. I think that's why I keep messing it up, because Seville has been so strong in this series all year long. It's hard to believe that that last race at Rockingham was his first win in Thursday Night Throwback Series competition.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It has taken a long time for Tyler Seville to get to victory lane, but he's done so and trying to get win number 2 on the season here tonight before we go to the championship finale 2 weeks from now at Nashville Fairgrounds. Big shout out to Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson for sponsoring this series all season long, as well as the American Sim Racing Series for putting it on for these drivers here tonight, working their way into turn number 3 and 4. Who was that? Was that the 242 of Ross Tatum poking his... Yeah, he's poking his nose underneath the 24 machine once again, side by side for 4th, and the 242 is going to take it on back. So again, they trade positions. Tatum now closing in on the back bumper of the number 98 of Sam Maxwell. Remember, Maxwell, he took 2 tires under his last pit stop, so his left side tires are nice and old. And kind of a gaggle of cars here growing behind Sam Maxwell. This is 3rd all the way back now to the 8th position. And look at Larry Orn in the 231. He wants a piece of the 24 of Alan Young. This is some fantastic racing here. Laps are winding down. 14 to go this time, and almost contact between the 231 and the 24.
You know who I'm watching is this last car in this group. I'm watching Doug Mullins, the 2-time winner here in this one. Remember, he had a lot of speed on the short run. You're on board with him right now. A lot of speed on the short run, but that car seemed to fall off the longer and longer it went. This falls into his wheelhouse. A nice short run, but a lot of ground to gain. Here he goes to the inside of Stewie in the number 1. So I'm watching that 18. I'm curious, how much ground can he gain in that number 18 car? Yes, he's on the oldest tires out there, but a short run, perfect for him as Young got the wall in front of him. Alan Young got the wall in front of him. He's going to get a 2-for-1 there, getting past both Young and the Stew. And now he's going after Larry Orn.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Alan Young in the 24, he's going to slide all the way back now to the 8th position, move Mullins and Jason Stewart up to 6th and 7th. Larry Orn inside the top 5 in the 231. I think that's the first time we've seen the 231 in the top 5 here tonight. So he's continuing to march his way up through the field. Up at the front, though, you're not missing anything because Stephen Hollingsworth has turned on the jets and he's pulling away from Tyler Seville about 1/10 of a second per lap. In the chat, Samuel Ola saying he can win. I'm assuming that is in regards to the 230. Is that in regards to Larry Orn or the 18 of Mullins, Samuel? Let us know. I think those two have kind of had a back and forth so far this season here in the 3-Wide TV chat. It's been a lot of fun to be a part of all season long. But Larry Orn trying to close in on the back bumper of Ross Tatum. Been pretty good last half of the race for Larry Orn. And one thing I'm noticing about that Ford Lumina, if you will, all of the corners are nice and square. Looks like Larry Orn hasn't had any excursions with the outside wall, and that's definitely going to help that car's pace here in the closing laps.
It definitely is going to, Peter. Remember, no fast repairs for this series, as opposed to some other divisions that you would see on the iRacing server. This one, no fast repairs. So when you get the damage, you got what you got, and Orn has done a fantastic job keeping the Lumina clean right now with the 231 in the top 5. Wow. Behind him, did you see how low Jason Stewart was in the number 1 car going there through the dogleg? He could look up and he could pick out which fan sitting right there in the center of the dogleg in the infield. He could pick out which ones were wearing his t-shirt as he drove by there. He was that close to the inside wall.
Well, while you were watching that, I was watching Ross Tatum and the number 98 of Sam Maxwell. That battle for 3rd closed up, but looks like the number 98 of Maxwell was able to scoot away just a little bit. Up at the front, you're still not missing anything. Hollingsworth still continuing to put a little bit of an advantage over Tyler Seville lap after lap. Definitely that 202 just stretching it out on those 2 tires. Very impressive run here tonight for the Folgers machine.
By the way, 8 laps to go that time for Hollingsworth. So working lap number 93. Hollingsworth leading the way. Seville trying to close in. Seville now taking a big chop in the dog leg through the backstretch towards turn number 3. It's go time for Tyler Seville right now. If he wants to get up there and see if those 4 tires can beat the 2 of Seville or Hollingsworth, he's got to start going now because there's only 7 laps to go when they get to the line this time.
Side by side, a little bit further back for the 5th position, at least it was, between Larry Orn and Doug Mullins. Mullins was able to get to the inside of the 231 there through the dog leg, but a very strong turn number 3 for Larry Orn was able to hold off that number 18, at least for now. Another lap continues to click off, just 6 laps to go this time by for Hollingsworth, trying to pick up win number 3 on the season and stand alone atop the leaderboard in the win list this year in the Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson Thursday Night Throwback Cup Series. But there's always potential for another caution flag that could put everything into a loop. Jason Stewart in the number 1 checkered flag.
Seville!
And there you go. Just like that. I was just about to say anything can happen. And Tyler Seville's 2nd place car, contact with the outside wall coming out of turn number 2. That number 11 goes around at the front of the field. Let's see this one on the replay. And there's the contact with the outside wall. Spins down across into the dog leg. And he's going to lose all that track position. And with that, Greg, he's pretty much going to kiss his chances at a Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson Thursday Night Throwback Cup Series Championship into the bin.
That's going to be a heartbreak for Tyler Seville as you go on board. One more look. Saw him just clip the wall off turn number 2 and spun around. You saw it on the screen. He just snapped around after catching the wall. Well, Peter, we had just got done talking about how much a caution could change things up. Caution is out, and once again, of course, it changes the entire complexion because now you've got the 2 drivers who took 2 tires on that last pit stop up in the 1-2 again. Hollingsworth and Maxwell. Tatum 3rd, Larry Orn in 4th. Doug Mullins will be 5th now as a couple cars coming down pit road. These guys have no more tires on pit road. They've used it all. It's run what you got here for this one. And Peter, this also should set up a green-white checkered finish.
You say that, though. Richard Fletcher in the number 43 Perrier machine, he's on pit road for only the 2nd time here tonight. He was one of those drivers who got that lucky break early on, and he was able to stay out there until lap number 69 or so when we had that first caution. So he's actually taking his 2nd and final set of tires. Now, I don't know how many positions he'll be able to gain because this will be a green-white checker. There won't be a whole lot of laps, but we will have to see how far through the field Richard Fletcher can get. We've already highlighted the fact that there's about a 1.5 to 2 second fall off on old tires. And if we get a couple of green-white checkers and Fletcher gets a couple of attempts at turn number 1 and turn number 2, and even turn number 3 to make some passes, keep an eye on that Perrier Ford because those fresh tires, they can definitely do damage.
You know where it's going to be big? Dogleg. That's going to be his best friend right now because you can gain a lot of ground in that dogleg by cutting it short. I think no doubt Fletcher's going to be cutting it as low as he possibly can going through that dogleg on both laps here on this green-white checker to try to get something.
So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. All 13 cars are on the lead lap here in tonight's Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson Thursday Night Throwback Cup Series 100 from Phoenix International Raceway. Big shout out to Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson for sponsoring this series. Make sure you check them out because it's holiday season, and I'm sure you know someone who's into Harley and has a Harley themselves. So make sure you go pick up some of their swag on their website. But nonetheless, we have a race to decide, and we also have a championship to almost decide, tonight being the penultimate round of the series, Greg. And that 202 of Hollingsworth, he looks like he's not only in a prime position here to win tonight, but pretty much all but pick up the championship in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, it has been a great season for Hollingsworth. And with what just happened to Tyler Seville, that, Peter, could pretty much lock it up for Hollingsworth. Of course, we won't assume anything until we look at the points situation when we head into the Music City in a couple of weeks for the fairgrounds. But no doubt this is going to be an exciting finish because you've got several drivers in the mix, and drivers we don't normally see up at the front with a shot at this one. So let's see what happens here. Lights are off on the pace truck for the green, white, checkered. Stephen Hollingsworth, the points leader, 2 wins on the season. Sam Maxwell, the pole sitter, to his outside, looking for win number 1 on the season.
Pace truck headed down pit road. This will be the first of 3 attempts at a green-white checker. I'm keeping my eyes on the number 43 of Richard Fletcher in the back of the pack. He's on fresh tires. Meanwhile, up at the front, the 202 of Hollingsworth. He's going to get out to an early advantage. But look at the number 98 is Sam Maxwell. Maxwell now all over the back bumper of the 202. Looks like Fletcher starting to make his move up through the field. How far can he climb? Here comes the number 98 machine down below the dogleg. Hollingsworth continues to hold on to the race lead here in turn number 3 and 4, but he drifts up the racetrack. He's still up on the racetrack. Here comes Maxwell trying to get his nose to the inside of that Chevy in front of him.
One more lap to go for Stephen Hollingsworth as the white flag falls. And Maxwell is there. Larry Orn. Oh, Orn pushed up the track. That's going to open the door for Tatum. Watch the move by Maxwell here in the dogleg. He's going to cut it. So does Hollingsworth. That was a great defensive move by Hollingsworth. If he can hold on, that's the race-winning move right there. Cutting through the dogleg, even though he was on the outside. And it looks like he's going to be able to hold him off.
There's a wreck in the back of the pack. Meanwhile, up at the front, we ride on board with the 202. Hollingsworth goes to victory lane, 3rd time this season. The number 98, Sam Maxwell, going to come home in 2nd, and Ross Tatum going to round out your top 3. How about that? Good run there for Ross Tatum. 2nd night in a row. I think you'll get to talk to him here, Greg, here in just a little bit. Looks like the 4th place goes to Larry Orn. How about that? Jason Stewart rounding out your top 5, but we'll have to go back a little bit further back in the pack, see exactly what happened. It looks like it involved Richard Fletcher, that driver who was on fresh tires. Not 100% sure if something happened in front of him. But that 202 goes to victory lane here, 3rd time this season. The first man to win 3 times on the year in this series. And can't say he hasn't deserved it, Greg. He's been fast every single time he's unloaded from the track.
Yeah, this 202 has been so strong. And Stephen Hollingsworth, we hadn't heard the name Stephen Hollingsworth before this series began. So he's putting the American Sim Racing Series on notice that he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this league for quite some time. Who knows? We may see him in some other classes here moving forward. And no doubt he is going to be a guy to keep an eye on and how he develops in this series moving forward.
Yeah, without a doubt. And he's going to do a little bit of push victory lap here. Sporting, as I say that, he's just going to head down pit road. Says, you know what? I think I'm done celebrating. I just want to get to victory lane and celebrate down there with the rest of the team. Definitely a fantastic race here tonight. Only a couple of cautions, and we'll be right back to talk to your top 3 finishers in just a little bit.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Experience the slice difference.
No joke.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Phoenix International Raceway, where tonight's 100-lap, 100-mile event has come to its conclusion here in the Boswell Country Roads Harley Davidson Thursday Night Throwback Cup Series. And we are joined by tonight's third-place finisher. Greg, why don't you take away Ross Tatum?
And Ross, hey, this is the second night in a row that I've gotten to interview you after a third-place finish, man. And you really seem to have a knack for these cars, because both times I've seen you in these retro cars, you've done very well for yourself. Nice run in third tonight.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was a good run. Like I said earlier, I could not find the proper way to push the car, but yeah, somehow pulled out a third tonight. I definitely wasn't a top 3 car though.
Ross, you led 14 laps, and I think that was ultimately what paid off in getting you up to the front, was that strategy to stay out there under green on that long green flag run that went just about 3/4 of the race. And you said that was kind of what you were hoping for. You talked about not knowing what your car was going to do on the short run. Well, it turned out you kind of needed to know because of the way that race finished with 3 cautions in the final few laps. What did you learn about that car on the short run, which helped you to get that third tonight?
I learned definitely not to overdrive turn 1, because I did it about 5 straight laps and about wrecked it once. I actually almost wrecked Sam one lap too, but somehow he saved it, thank goodness. But yeah, I just learned to actually I started shifting, to be honest, and that helped a little bit. I really wish we didn't have to shift, but it seemed like shifting helped my run off the corner a lot, and I was able to close up ground on Sam on that last 15 lap run right there.
Well, Ross, just one more race left in this series. We head to the Nashville Fairgrounds, but I don't know if you caught it, but it has been announced that this series is going to run a full schedule next year in 2021 when it gets rebranded as the Classic Cup Series. Are we going to see you running this series full time next year?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely need a win, so I'm going to keep running until I get some wins in here, and hopefully I can bring some more people with me next season so we can get a little bit fuller fields. But yeah, this series is a blast. American Sim Racing puts on a great series, and it's just a lot of fun.
Hey, maybe talk to some of those guys that you race with on Wednesdays about this series next year. But we're headed to Nashville next week. A podium here tonight for you in Arizona. Some momentum built for Nashville next week. Who you got to thank on this number 242?
I thank Coca-Cola, like always, for paying my bills, and thank Zach Stone for the awesome paint jobs he does. And also Steven tonight helped me a lot, and then American Sim Racing, of course, and then you guys. It's always fun to go back and watch the broadcast. You guys do an awesome job.
Third place tonight, Ross Tatum in the 242. Great finish. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I have actually been able to catch up with tonight's 4th place finisher. Looks like we're not going to be able to catch up with tonight's runner-up, Sam Maxwell. So I've decided to pick up your 4th place finisher, the number 231 of Larry Orn. Larry, not a top 3 for you here tonight, but the next best spot, 4th place for you, and you kept the 231 clean all night long. Tell us about your run.
Oh man, that was crazy. So first off, I am not the best at this track. I feel that I guess the shorter flat tracks are really my Achilles heel. So my expectations really weren't that high, but I had this strategy of trying to make the whole race without pitting, because I figured we can make it on fuel if I coasted, but my tires went to crap. So that's why I fell so far back. But then we got that I came on pit road, and I took 2 right side tires, and that actually worked really well. And I was starting to move back up through the field. Then I got the lucky dog, which is really helpful. That last few laps, I was racing so hard with Doug Mullins and everybody. And then I was like messing with my brake bias going down the straightaway with my mouse. So it was wild. And I almost had third, but I drove it in just a little too hard in turn 1. And he got me, and I was pushing real hard, and I didn't want to take him out in turn 3. So man, I had a lot of fun. That was way more entertaining than I thought it would be.
Yeah, definitely a strong run for you here tonight. Of course, we close out the championship 2 weeks from now when we go to the Nashville Fairgrounds. Have you been able to drive at Nashville yet?
I've done a few hot laps, and I think it's going to be a blast. It reminds me a little bit of old Bristol, where that bottom groove seems to be superior, and it's decently banked. So I think you're going to see a lot of exciting racing. I think you're going to see the bumper used a little bit, and I think it'll be a fun race both for the drivers and the fans.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that one as well. But hey, this season is coming to a close, and retrospectively, pretty good season for you so far. You've had a lot of strong runs, and you've kept your car clean, more importantly. Tell us kind of retrospectively your thoughts on the season and whether or not you plan on running next year's championship here in the American Sim Racing Series with this 87 car.
Well, I absolutely love this series and these cars. It's actually the reason why I got iRacing this summer, and I wish I could have ran the first 2 races. I think it was at North Wilkesboro and Charlotte, but I made the 3rd race of the season, and we've had some ups and downs. I almost won my first race till I wrecked me and Jason Stewart, which hate to do that because he's my buddy. But man, I really love these cars. I really love this series. I'm super excited that they're coming back next year with a full season, and I hope we get a sponsor to help support it.
Absolutely, would be absolutely awesome to have that. But hey, fantastic season for you. Great race here again tonight. I know you got some fans in the chat and some sponsors you want to thank, so let us hear it.
Yeah, I just want to thank all my friends and my girlfriend for watching as they always do, and the support is really nice here on Thursdays. And I guess I want to thank Goodwrench for being my sponsor, although they're not paying me. So, but hey, do it for Dale.
Yep, that's right. For Dale, right? All right. Well, Larry, good luck here in the final race of the season 2 weeks from now. And maybe we'll get to talk to you up here on the podium once again.
Hey, hopefully so.
All right. Well, folks, that was tonight's 4th place finisher, Larry Orn. And Mr. Greg Rentz has gone out to victory lane where Stephen Hollingsworth in the 202 machine is sitting there.
And Stephen Hollingsworth, 3rd win of the season, taking a gamble on the 2 tires. We talked to you a little bit about it. You said you liked the way the car drove when it's a little bit looser on those 2 tires, and for the 3rd time this year, it paid off.
Yeah, it felt good. 2 tires, it really did loosen up the car. There at the end, yeah, I was fading. I could tell that if it was any more than 100 laps, that strategy wouldn't have worked. So I'm glad that it worked out for us.
Well, it definitely worked out. You led the most laps in that number 61 and get a stranglehold on the points as your competitor in the points, Tyler Seville, had that issue late in the race. And I got to ask you, what went through your mind when you saw the 11 of Tyler Seville have that issue in your mirror?
I bummed me out because he was catching me and it was like 7 to go, and it was going to be a dogfight for the win between the 2 of us. And I knew if he got to me that I was going to need to be on the outside and to hold him on the inside and just pray that he doesn't wash up and we don't wreck each other, because I wasn't planning on giving up the lead too easily with 7 to go. But it sucks that he got into the wall coming out of 2. That's a shame.
Well, Steven, a win here tonight in the Arizona Desert. You now lead the series in wins with 3. Next week, just 1 more to go, or 2 weeks from now, excuse me, the Nashville Fairgrounds for the championship race. You are sitting very pretty for that championship. Are you going to go out and just try to keep it clean and stay out of trouble to lock up a championship? Or are you going to go for the big one and end it in style with a win?
Obviously going to go after the goal of to win the championship. This is the first year this series, this league has run this series, and it'd be cool to win the championship in the first year. And it's my first year with this league, so it'd be cool to seal the deal right off the bat. I haven't bought Nashville yet, so it's going to be completely new to me. So hopefully we can just finish decent and just seal the deal.
All right, head into Nashville next week, or 2 weeks, next race, I should say, for the finale here in the T.N.T. Throwback Series, brought to you by Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson. Speaking of our sponsors, hey, Steven, it's your favorite time of the week. thank your sponsors.
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys in the booth, 3Y TV, and Jim Foose and Sam Maxwell and whoever else runs this league. I'm not sure who the guys are that run this league yet, but I appreciate them letting me in and let me race, and I appreciate you guys broadcasting. It's fun to go back and watch the races.
Winner for the third time this season, Stephen Hollingsworth. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Well, Peter.
Well, I'll tell you.
Oh, sorry.
Go
I
ahead, Greg.
was going to go ahead and let you take home the post-race results here on your birthday.
All right. Yeah. Well, yeah. How about that? I'll tell you what. It's been a pretty good birthday. Fantastic race here tonight in the Boswell's Country Roads Thursday Night Throwback Cup Series. But let's go through this final race results. Stephen Hollingsworth picking up win number 3, stands alone atop the win leaderboard here in this championship this season. 11 rounds down, just one more left to go. Sam Maxwell, your pole sitter here tonight. Great recovery for him, kind of faded there in the middle portion of the race, comes back to finish in second, unable to get a post-race interview with him. Ross Tatum, how about that? He continued to march his way up through the field all night long, comes home with third. He started down in 12th, and I believe by my math, biggest mover of the race. Larry Orn, just talked to him, finishing in the 4th position. Good run for him here tonight. Jason Stewart, he has a win in the series this season. He finishes in 5th. Doug Mullins, 2 wins to his name so far this season. He finishes down in 6th. Alan Young there in 7th. Tyler Seville in 8th after a late race spin after running second for a good portion of the race. And comes into tonight second place in points, but he's going to fall even further back behind Stephen Hollingsworth, as Hollingsworth's going to have an absolute stranglehold. He's going to have to not start to lose the championship, pretty much. Finishing behind Seville, Lee Staples in the StepTire.com machine. He finishes in 9th. Tim Knott rounds out your top 10 in the number 41 machine there, Greg.
And drivers rounding it out from 11th on back. All 13 drivers that took the green flag here tonight finished on the lead lap. It was Michael Whiting, Ed Bray, and Richard Fletcher rounding out the field in this one. And you tried to get the Porsche out there, Peter. Unfortunately, failed tech, did not get through. So you're kind of already loaded up and just ready to go start the true birthday celebrating now, eh?
Yeah, I really thought that 919 would fit the templates of these 87 cars. I thought, well, maybe if you just got the templates in the right positions, those templates weren't so great back in the day, and there weren't that many. I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, but yeah, it wasn't meant to be for me here tonight, so I just had to resort to the 3-wide TV booth. It's nice and comfy up here. Sometimes there's cheesecake up here as well, so, definitely a good thing to be up here in the booth. But definitely a fantastic race here tonight, and really sets the stage for what's going to be the championship finale in 2 weeks at the Nashville Fairgrounds. Greg, I'm looking forward to that race. I've only commentated one race there before, and it was a good one.
That'll be my first time to the Nashville Fairgrounds commentating, so looking forward to that one. Hearing it may be our producer's first time as well. So, man, this is going to be a wild week here in a couple weeks, as not only is this series heading there, we also have the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series All-Star race heading there in a couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that one as well. Definitely a lot of races coming up here on 3-Wide TV at the Nashville Fairgrounds with the American Sim Racing Series. So make sure you guys hit that notification bell after hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the action at Nashville Fairgrounds. But Greg, any final thoughts here tonight?
Just a great race overall, and we saw 2 different forms of race. We saw a very long green flag run before a wild finish with a green-white checkered. All in all, very impressive that these drivers were able to adapt on that one. Just in closing thoughts, a gun race at Phoenix. Looking forward to Nashville, and one more time, happy birthday.
Thank you very much, Greg. I'm going to sit back, enjoy the rest of the night, go grab a beverage, and it's going to be a good night here in the Short household. But I'll tell you what, guys, until we meet again here on 3-Wide TV, big shout out to our friends over at Sim TV for the camera angles that we bring you each and every time we hit the go live button, as well as Boswell's Country Roads for sponsoring this series. But for my shelf is not doing anything. It's holding books right now. But for myself, Peter Short, Greg Rentz, and Carlos Acosta will give each and every one of you a good night. We'll see you 2 weeks' time here for more American Sim Racing Series, Boswell's Country Roads, Harley Davidson, Thursday Night Throwback Cup Series action. See ya!